Lanka, do not change the channel. You're on the right show. It's just that I am here after a very, very long time. Alright, so I had to chase Amaya off the set because we are moving from one racer to another. Right now, we have Chandima Gooneratne on the set with us. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, I heard that you're a morning person.
Yes, we went through that.
Right. So, is it important in what you do?
Not really. I have to.
It's just a habitual thing.
It's just a habitual thing. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's talk about racing and how you got into it, and how did you take your first step, basically?
Well, racing. When I was very young, I think it all came from my father, who got me involved with driving at a very early age, and then it sort of went from there. I wasn't. It's not about being a car person or anything like that. It's about enjoying driving.
Right.
And from a very young age, I think I had that passion to drive. And from there, it sort of went one after another, and I got into karting and karting into racing after that. Yes.
And you started when you were?
Well, I started driving by myself when I was about 7 to 8.
Okay.
Which is fairly young because I used to drive old Land Rover. So that was when I was very small. But then I started racing go-karts I was 11 or 12 when I started racing go-karts. I'm not too sure. Racing wasn't very big in Sri Lanka at that time, so there were very few places that did it. So I used to try very hard and get into a race then.
Okay. But you discovered your dream when you were very young,
yes, I
relatively.
did. Yes.
And that's very beneficial, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So while you were on it, how did you get the opportunity to start racing, officially, and what was your first step into the field?
To be honest, my racing career is not a very long one.
Okay.
It started really in 2012,
right,
when I started racing what you would call a single-seater Formula car, which looks like a Formula 1 car. It's not nearly as fast as a Formula 1, but it is. It looks like that visually, right? And that's when I really started racing. Well, I wouldn't say professionally, but to some sort of level. Before that, it was just generally karting here and as well as abroad. I used to race abroad as well, but it was just go-karting and that. So it's not a very long career. I've had just 2-3 years. That's about it.
Yeah, but you've gone so far in a short time.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of footage on your racing. So let's check that out right now. Oh, there you go. Why don't you explain what's happening there?
I think this is actually a track in where we race. It's called Pannala.
Okay.
It's a very nice circuit.
Right.
And basically, this is actually, I think, the first lap.
Right.
Right. And so this is pretty much the car. It's actually a single-seater car, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast because it's extremely lightweight, and it has a fairly powerful engine. This particular one is with the electronic fuel injection engine, so it's much quicker than the older version of this, which was a carbureted model.
And this was how long ago?
This was about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was about a year ago.
All right. There's this thing that bikers discuss about the thrill of, biking.
Yes.
Is there a thrill of
There is definitely. I think they both share the same sort of passion. Right. I mean, the same thrill is involved where your heart starts beating. I mean, I can remember the first time I got into the car, and I put I got in and I was at the start line, and I could hear this huge thumping noise from the side, and I was looking all over to see it was actually my heartbeat, right? So yeah, there's a strong thrill in that.
Of course, yeah. And you're very, I think it's very fortunate that you got involved in something that you are passionate about ever since you were small, since you were young.
Yes.
So tell us about your family background. What do your parents do, and how did they push you into this?
Well, like I said, I think almost everything that I am in terms of racing, driving, and all of that came through with my father. My father was a guy who really enjoyed traveling around Sri Lanka. So he went to he was a wildlife photographer, so he sort of went to all the national parks and visited everything, and I have a very strong passion towards wildlife as well, and wildlife photography.
Yes.
So with that came we see in our family we had a lot of Land Rovers because that's the vehicle that took us to all these places. So naturally I developed a strong passion towards that brand, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
And from there I went on to different parks, and my father pushed me to drive, and he never held me back one bit. I mean, whenever I wanted to get in and drive at a very young age, I used to do that, and it was a rickety old Land Rover at that.
Right.
But so that's pretty much how it started. And
so basically your entire family is like adventurous and very risk takers.
Yes, definitely.
They're pushing you towards
yes.
it. Nice. You were mentioning wildlife photography.
Yes.
When I was looking for information about you, I saw a bit of your work as well. So why don't you tell us, how did you get passionate or interested in that? I know that your dad influenced you, but then what was your reason for getting into it?
Yeah, well, I'm not, definitely I'm not a professional wildlife photographer, right?
Let's say so for now.
Yeah. I'm not a definitely, but I would like to eventually do something. My father did a book on wildlife in Sri Lanka, and eventually that would be something I would like to have as well.
Okay.
Something maybe a little different to what he did, but you know, I would like to get there one day.
Okay.
And the photography thing, I really enjoy that. I enjoy going to the parks, I enjoy seeing animals and taking photographs of them. So that's how that.
How long has that been going on?
Pretty long. That from when I was a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Since school days.
Since school days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned these three categories of racing that you're involved in, Chandima: karting, on-road motor racing, and off-road racing.
Yes.
Why don't you elaborate a little bit on that, on the differences between these three areas? Three areas.
It's you see, when you go into a sport, it's a very focused and very specialized sport.
Right.
So it's these three things that I currently do are actually three very separate things. One is go-karting, which I take part in. You can say it's somewhat similar to the on-road racing, which I do, which is Formula. But I also compete in 4x4 motorsports, which is typically off-road races. This is not fast. This is a very slow, technical type of driving, totally different theory and mechanics to driving on the road fast or driving in a go-kart, or you know, it's three different disciplines. And I've not come across many people that have the same passion towards off-roading as well as being, you know, drivers on the road for that matter.
Okay, let's discuss more on that after this commercial break. We'll be right back.